Hi, today we're going to do a cute little Valentine girl. And it may not be a girl, but it could have a heart here instead of the roses. And the colors that you'll need for this, if you don't have a skin tone color already in a mixed form, you will need orange, and you will also need white, and then you would need red, a dark red as in red violet, a blue, dark blue as in blue violet, a medium value green, and a yellow orange, and we will need a permanent pen. That's what we've outlined here with. Here's another one that I did during a Zoom class, and you can see that there are I've sampled the colors here as we went. So let's start fresh. This is mixed media paper, but you would need a paper that's thick enough that your colors don't bleed through. So we're going to start with a kind of a ovalish round for the face. It doesn't have to be round and it doesn't have to be perfectly oval. And that's what erasers are for. We can change it if we wish. Okay. Then we're going to if we're going to do the roses, we're going to give ourselves 3 circles down here. And they can be slightly bigger than the face, or they can be any size you want, really. And then we're going to have a partial one here and a partial one on the other side. That's not very good, so we'll fix it. And we're going to make some wings. So we're going to make this is kind of an S. We're going to make a little lazy S on its back here, because cherubs usually have small wings, not like angels, which are usually depicted with large wings. And then we're going to make another one up here that's a little bit bigger. I just decided this one needed to have 4 wings. So we're going to come up, and these are not going to be exactly the same. It's pretty hard unless you trace it and flip the cover over to make an exact copy. Now that one's a little low, so we're going to fix it. Close enough. And then we're going to come up here with this one. It's really hard to draw backwards. That one's taller, so fix it. Okay. Now I'm drawing kind of dark here because I want it to show up on the screen, but you can certainly, when I'm normally sketching and coming up with ideas, I sketch very lightly because we don't want heavy lines to show. So remember, keep that in mind as you're sketching. Then we're also going to make some leaves around these roses. Now, if you had decided you wanted a heart, you would just, somewhere under the chin here, you would come out and make a heart like this, okay? That's perfectly acceptable, and you may do that if you wish. I'll go ahead and erase these right now because we're going to stick with the roses. Okay, so we're going to make, a few big leaves. They don't, the size doesn't matter that much, really. And maybe another one over here, a little bit crooked, but that's okay. It doesn't, leaves are crooked all the time. And maybe we'll make one up here, and maybe one here. Or you could, if you want, make the rose petal like this. I change this every time I teach this, so this is different than the pictures that you saw. Okay, one more thing we want to add is a little, now this is not a halo. I started to make a halo, but cherubs don't have halos, so we left that out. And this is going to be a sign where we put a word. And then there's going to be some arrows. And these are just going to come straight out. You can do as many as you want. Try to make them a little different lengths. I did 5, but you can do 6 or 3 or whatever you want. When I first drew this, I had them behind her head like they were in a quiver, but then they looked like they were coming out of her head, and we didn't like that. So I changed that up. Okay. And now we're going to do a face. So we're going to make a very quiet little line through the middle, little dot through the middle of the head, equal distance above and below. And this little angel is going to have very folky eyes. Let me draw one over here big so you can see what it looks like. We're going to make an L, and we're going to make a few lines coming from it, kind of spraying out. And we're going to put that right on that line. Now we're going to go over this with permanent ink too. Then the nose is going to be just a little line right there, and the mouth will be a little line, little curved line here, and maybe a little lower lip there. And you can give her, I keep calling it a her. Now remember, this could be a boy. And what's going to influence that is the next thing we're going to do is, what kind of hair are we going to give this kid? Well, I just stuck with kind of curly hair like this, but you could do parted hair, you could do smooth hair, anything that floats your boat. I'm going to erase the top of this head just a little bit because I don't like that line showing through. We'll do that also when we do the permanent marking. Okay, so now it's time to paint. And I will say that on one of the samples I did a banner coming out here like this, which is kind of fun if you want to do that. You can say, "This be my Valentine." There's so many options, like the leaves and everything. You can just do, this is the main part right here, and then you can do whatever else you want. Okay, so we can begin to paint now. I've got my paints on my, these paints are by Chroma Acrylic, and they're the brand Josanya, which is a nice, thick, heavily pigmented artist grade paint. You'll need a medium-sized brush. You could use a round if you flatten it. This is a filbert, and possibly you might need a liner, not sure. These marks are going to be made with a permanent pen, so you may not need that liner brush. Okay, so let's start. Now this is a watercolor style technique, meaning that we use a lot of water and make thin paint. It's not exactly watercolor because these are acrylic paints. I usually put some drops of water on my palette paper because then I can pick it up if I need it. I also have a paper towel handy to blot my brush. Okay, so to mix this flesh, we need to go into white paint. I'm just going to put a little bit here. Now, because I have a lot of white paint on my brush, I need to rinse it. So I'm going to rinse it in the water, and I'm going to blot it on my paper towel. And then I'm going to go to, let's come over here a little bit. I'm going to go to my orange paint, and I'm just going to put it right there. I left these out last night, so I have to reconstitute them. Just put some right there, and I'm going to rinse my brush again because I have orange paint all over it. Then I'm going to go to my dark blue. This is a dark, but look, this is super heavily pigmented, and I'm going to rinse my brush because I only need a very little amount of flesh color. So I'm going to pick up all this orange and come over here and mix it in. And you can see I don't have enough, so rinse brush again, blot, go back to the orange, mix it in. Now, and let me show you on the paper, this is going to be pretty pink. We don't want that particularly. Now, if you wanted to make a black angel or a brown angel skin, then you would add brown paint to the colors. Okay, I'm going to just sneak over here and get a teeny bit of blue and mix it. Then I'm going to check it again. It's a little bit on the blue side. That blue is really strong. So back to more white. A bit, almost just a smidge more orange. I think I got too little on my palette. I'm going to wipe my brush, pick up some of that orange and go in here. Should be about right this time. Yes, it is. Okay, now see how thin this paint is? It's just very thin. It's not running, but it is thin. And if it isn't, then you pick up some of those drops of water to make it better. Now I'm going to hold my brush low to the surface. I'm not holding it up like this. Low to the surface, and I'm just going to swish that color right on the face. And we're going to let that dry and carry on to other areas. Oh, wait, sorry. I'm going to wipe my brush, and I'm going to go back into my red. I'm going to just get rid of most of it on my palette paper, maybe blot my brush once, and I'm going to give her some cheeks right here. Kind of just straight up and down cheeks. You can touch it with your finger if you need to. Now, if you have trouble getting the pink or the red light enough, you can mix it with your flesh color. That works very easily. Okay, now while I've got the red, I'm going to go ahead and fill in my my roses. Now this paint is thick. I don't want it that thick. I'm going to rinse my brush, but I'm not going to blot it much. I'm just going to come over here and go back to that thin paint again. I'm just going to fill in my roses. Now, if you want, this is light red. It reads as red. If you wanted pink, you would need to add white to your red, but you're still going to apply it in a thin manner like this. Okay, I'm going to rinse my brush. I'm going to go back to this little spot of blue. Let's see how much is there. Quite a bit, really. Pick up that dot because I want to put some pastel blue wings here. It's almost too dark, even though it was only a smidge there. It's only a smidge. A little bit dark, so I'm going to just swish that color in with the brush low to the surface. And I don't mind if there's little holes in the coverage of the paint because it looks more hand painted that way. And it's okay if you even get out of the lines a little bit. This is casual. It'll look more friendly and casual. Now, if you want to go back into that blue and maybe put some at the, I'm blotting my brush, at the base of the wings. That will kind of give them a little bit of a shade value. Although I didn't do that on one of the pictures I showed you, and it was just fine. Now, see how I used the edge of my brush and I got some lines? I'm going to rinse my brush and I'm going to go back and just smooth those out. That's a nice thing about this wet into wet technique, is you can remove paint and you can move it. You can remove it and you can move it. Here's my paint again. I'm going to get just a smidge more because it's just a little bit more down here. And again, I'm going to spread that around a little bit so it's not, we don't like harsh lines. See, that looks like a blob. So with a clean brush, you just tap it a little bit and move it where you want it to go. Okay, let's go to these green leaves next. Now I have already a medium value green. That's enough to do about 10 angels. I only need just a little teeny bit. I rinsed my brush and blotted it. And holding the brush low to the surface, I'm just going to swish this color in here. Color all the green leaves. Might just even give that stem a little bit of green. And this one. Okay, now we have a little bit of a vacant area here underneath the chin of this little angel. And let me speak a moment about this face. Turned out pretty good. Just, I didn't want it too round, but I didn't want it too human looking. But if you need to adjust your chin line, you need to do that anytime. Use your eraser and maybe make it a little more pointed or a little bit rounder. So I'm going to come back up here to my blue, and I'm just going to poke some blue in that hole there. Okay. Now, if I didn't have the banner, I would be painting this red violet. But I'm going to paint my banner red. And I'm going to do that right now with the red paint I have right on my palette. There's plenty. Holding the brush low to the surface. That's too much paint. I blotted my brush. I didn't rinse it. I just blotted it. I'm going to leave some of those holes in there. So because of that, I'm going to have to paint this a different color. At least I've decided to paint it a different color. I'm going to go into my yellow-orange. This other yellow is just a little too light. It doesn't show up well. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to paint just with the edge of my brush, or you can use your liner brush. Paint my arrowheads. And then I'm going to get just a little bit more water, thin this down. Again, it's not running, it's just very wet. And the brush low to the surface, I'm going to put in this little banner here. It could be green, could be a different shade of red, but it does, this yellow kind of brightens it up a little bit. Okay, now we're going to go, we do need our liner brush for sure, because we are going to do some detailing here. Now, if I wanted to shade my leaves, which is optional, but you would take your green and add some of the blue to it. I had some blue over here, until you get a darker shade of green. And then with the brush low, I'm just gonna tap in some darker color right next to the roses. I'm going to do that on 3 of them, then I'm going to get rid of my hard line. Maybe if I go fast I can do them all. Okay, rinse the brush, go back, soften that hard line. There, good enough. Okay. I wanted to make a little dot where the bowl or the opening of the rose would be. And then I'm going to take my brush again. That's not the right one. Here it is. And I'm going to go into the red violet. Now the red violet is a pure pigment. You can make a red violet by mixing red and blue together, but it won't look as clear and bright as this, but it will work. And it does depend on what red you use and what blue you use. But since I'm blessed to have red violet, I'm going to use it. And I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to make kind of a dark spot where the opening of the rose would be. And then I'm going to just, oops, that's a little bit messy, pat some of this color here and there on the rose, not to repaint it. Could put some up here too. I know that looks messy, but it's going to be fine. Try to get hard lines. Okay. That's it. We're gonna let that dry well, and we're gonna go to our ink pen now. On my website, I have a link to these. This is a platinum carbon ink pen. It says carbon ink pen, and this is made in Japan. And they are available on Amazon. And they just simply are really good. They're better than a Sharpie. I'm sorry, I just did that so you could see it. It's a fine point. Doesn't come in any other points, but it really just doesn't bleed. It's great. Now I know, in fact, I could take my eraser. I know I have hard lines here, dark lines, because I wanted you to be able to see it. But I'm gonna, and this paper doesn't erase quite as good as I would like. But mixed media paper is not terribly expensive and it works. Like you can just kind of lighten the face a little bit so you can still see it. Okay, I'm going to blow this off. All right, here we go. So now we're going to pick up our pen. And you could actually erase that after you did your inking as well. I just wanted to get it done. Sometimes lines are distracting. I'm going to start at the top, and we're just simply going to go over. We don't have to go over exactly the lines that we painted. See that little bit sticking out there? That's just fine with me. Looks a little more casual. Now, some people are just going to hate that. They won't be able to stand that. So you guys be real careful and do yours perfectly. And I won't. You can do a couple of lines on there if you want to make it look like wings, or you can leave it off. Now, when I come to the face, I'm not going to do the top of the head because it'll distract from the curls. It'll really stand out. So I'm going to start about halfway down. And then I'm going to come in and do my eyes. The nose. It's very happy because it's got a big smile. I put a couple little dots there to indicate dimples. And here's eyebrows. And then we're just going to squiggle in some curly hair. And you can bring it down onto the forehead if you're doing curly hair, but you do what you want if you want a different kind of hair. Kind of like to soften the edge of the face a little bit. Okay, moving on, we're going to do some arrows. And I'm going to have to tilt this just a little bit, and you should too, to make it easier. It's kind of hard to draw backwards when your hand wants to go a certain direction, and it makes those lines easier for you if they do go according to the way they want to. We're going to do the leaves now, and they do not have to stay in the lines. I'm purposely going outside the lines, off the lines. Not a whole lot, just a little bit to show it's casual. Okay, now once we've gotten these leaves on here, we need to give them a couple of vein lines. So let's do that, and let's make them curved, please. No straight lines on the veins. And they can go left or right, does not matter. It just shows, now this one's higher up, so it shows that the broader part of the leaf is down here. So whatever you do there is fine. Let's see, I don't want to forget anything. I'm going to go to the roses next. Let's see, are they dry? Yep, they're pretty dry. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to outline them, but I'm not sticking to that circle. I'm going to make them a little bit fluffier. And of course you have to go outside the lines to do that. I should have told you that ahead of time. Don't freak out. Okay, then we're going, oh, I guess I'll do this too. I'll do this little banner. Now when I do a long line like this, I break the line. I don't make it solid. It's more, your eye likes it better. It kind of looks like a little shine, maybe some shine is hitting there. Okay, back to the roses. Going to make a kind of a spiral, but look how I'm making them kind of wonky. This is the dark spot, and then I'm coming out here, kind of jiggling my pen. So I'm going to even kind of come in here a little bit closer so you can see. It's kind of jiggly. That's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to just make this, and that indicates the opening of the rose. Then you can make a couple of little extra lines, which might indicate petals. And that's it. Don't try to overdo it. Okay, then we're going to go to the banner behind the head, and I made it love, because love was a nice enough word to fit in here. And after I did that, I went back and I kind of widened these letters a little bit, or give them a dimension by adding a second line. And then we're going to come over here. I guess that's a pencil line. Nope. It's just a piece of the paper. We're going to do Be My Valentine. Now you could also write any little message on there that would suit you for the person that you were wanting to do this for. And then backing out again, we're going to date this. This is January 16th, and we're going to sign it. That way, when you look back on this, you'll remember when you did it. Okay, that's it. I hope you enjoyed doing this. I hope you do a bunch of them. They're fun to do. They're lots of fun.